Papers, Please is a puzzle simulation video game created by indie game developer Lucas Pope. The game was released on August 8, 2013 for Microsoft Windows and OS X, for Linux on February 12, 2014, and for iOS on December 12, 2014. In Papers, Please, the player takes on the role of a border crossing immigration officer in the fictional dystopian country of Astotska, which has been and continues to be at political hostilities with its neighboring countries. The game begins with your character, who is nameless, getting picked in the October Labor Lottery to work as an inspector. The character's family is provided a Class A apartment. The player must review travelers' passports and other supporting paperwork against an ever growing list of rules using a number of tools and guides. Tasks include allowing those with the correct paperwork while rejecting those without all proper documents, detaining those with falsified information, and balancing personal finances. The first day has the player only accepting Ashtotkan citizens while denying any foreigners. This introduces the player to the basic mechanics and what the game is about. At the end of each in game day, the player earns money based on how many people they have processed, lowered by citation penalties for protocol violations, and then must decide on a simple budget to spend that money on rent, food, heat, and other necessities in low class housing for their family. The layout of the game is quite easy to understand. You click on the speaker above the booth to start the day and call upon the next person in line. The person will walk in and place their documents on the table. For now, as it's the first day, they will only have their passport to present. The passport includes their name, date of birth, gender, issuing city, expiry date, and passport number, which will be needed for later. The top right is very important as scripted events will take place over the course of the game. Each day of gameplay contains both a number of scripted stories and a number of random cases for the inspector to process. On the second day, an attack on the checkpoint is orchestrated where a random person from the line jumps the border, runs along, and throws a bomb at the guards at the end. These are scripted events that happen on several days that cause them to be cut short. As each day goes along, new rules and documents are implemented for the travelers, such as on the third day, foreigners must present valid travel tickets, which include the correct date, and on day 4, a valid entry permit, which matches the correct purpose response, name, passport number, and date. The funniest character in the game appears on the third day. Georgi Kostava first appears on day 3 without a passport, claiming that Arstotska is so great, passport not required, and leaves on his own when interrogated. The next few days, Georgi will continue to try and enter with incorrect documents. First, he has a crudely made fake passport on day 4. On day 6, he has managed to get a valid passport, but does not carry an entry permit. When he shows up on day 8, he still does not have an entry permit and instead presents an entry ticket, which were only valid on the third day. Even if the inspector denies Georgie entry or has him detained, he maintains a positive attitude and sympathizes with the inspector's difficult job. Papers, Please has a total of 20 endings. Getting the endings depends on the choices that you make during the game. One of these choices includes siding with the Ezek Order. The Order of the Ezek Star is a mysterious organization in the game. The inspector has to choose between ignoring Ezek or cooperating with them. Depending on the degree of cooperation, different endings will occur. Ezek claims the main cause of the organization is to free Astotska from its greedy and corrupt leaders, but the political ideology of the Order is not specified. Inspector first encounters Ezek when a mysterious hooded messenger hands him a black card on day 8. On the back of the card, the name Corman Drex is shown, and the inspector can give the card to them when they arrive at the border. If the inspector misses that day, Corman Drex will appear on the next day and tell the inspector he has something for him. They will then hand over the note explaining the intentions of Ezek. Once the note is returned, the inspector will receive a cipher with a long string of letters and numbers on it. This will be needed for later. Siding with the Ezek Order means that you are turning against the government, and if you are caught, you'll be arrested for plotting against them. The Ezek Order will be providing several tasks for the inspector over various days. The Ezek Order will also send the inspector 1000 credits in which the option to keep or burn them appears after the day. If the inspector burns the money, the order will hand him 2000 credits the following day. If the inspector accepts the money at any point, it will later be confiscated after a neighbor reports them, and the investigator is forced to let in the second Ezek agent to be clear of all wrongdoings. However, the money will not be returned. If the inspector does not allow entry to the EZIC agent, the inspector will be arrested, leading to an ending. The coded documents that were handed by Coleman Drex reveal the two names of the EZIC agents that they ask for you to let through. They are Mikhail Sharatov and Stephanie Greer. It's also worth pointing out they will not be bringing the correct documents. Dimitri is the Ministry of Admission Divisional Authority of East Greston Operations and the supervisor of the inspector. He visits the checkpoint every 10 days to report how many citations the inspector has received and to evaluate his work at the border. During his second visit on day 20, in addition to his evaluation and plaque, the supervisor will take note of any unauthorized decor and missing plaques. If he finds any unauthorized wall hangings, the inspector will receive a 20 credit fine at the end of the day. Before he leaves, the supervisor will inform the inspector that a friend of his will be coming across the border soon and orders him to approve her entry. Shay Piersovska is the friend the supervisor asks you to let through but will not specify the exact day. She is a female diplomat from Kalecha who will attempt to cross the border on day 25. She identifies the MOA East Greston supervisor by his first name and sympathizes with the inspector on the grounds that the supervisor is a terrible boss. It is implied that she and the supervisor are lovers, and she hopes that he is less energetic than the last time they met. Her diplomatic authorization does not include Ostotska, but detaining her leads to ending 12, ending the game. For this reason, the inspector needs to either deny or approve her entry for the game to continue. The inspector meets M. Vonal for the first time on day 12 when he comes asking questions about a suspicious group that attempts to stir up trouble. If the inspector let Mikhail Saratov through on day 11, Vonal will mention that there was trouble with the subway the previous night. He then gives the inspector the EZIC symbol on a piece of paper and asks if the inspector has seen anything similar. At this stage, you may show him the coded documents that the order gave you earlier. Doing so will result in an ending where you're arrested for involvement with suspicious groups. If the inspector does not give him the EZEC documents, Vernon will go away, instructing the inspector to report any curious things, although there is no way to actually do so. This is not the only ending that includes Vernal, though. Towards the final days of the game, the Order become more aggressive with the commands that they give you. Khaled Tom is an assassin trying to ruin Ezek's plans. He becomes the man in red if the ninth entry and allowed to live. Tom is the ninth entrant on day 20. Earlier that day, an Ezek messenger will come with a note explaining that Tom will target the agent in Ostotska if the inspector lets him through. They will also give the inspector an envelope with the skull in the front and poison inside. If the inspector denies him, he will receive a citation and he will reappear on day 23 as the man in red. The man in red is a person who appears in the line on day 23. His identity changes depending on what happened to Khalid Istom on day 20. If Istom was the ninth entry but was not poisoned, an Ezek note reveals that Istom is the man in red. Otherwise, their identity remains unknown. Near the beginning, an Ezek Order agent will come in and explain that the man in red is a threat to them. The inspector is instructed to kill the man in red to help Ezek. To accomplish this, the messenger also delivers a key to open the sniper rifle's locker in the inspector's booth. Using the tranquilizer on the man will give you one ending, while shooting him with a sniper rifle will give you another. As I explained before, as the days go along in this game, they will become harder and more documents will be requested from the people trying to enter. Various rules change, but in total there are 8 documents that appear in total. These consist of passport, entry permit, access permit, diplomatic authorization, certificate of vaccination, identity card, and temporary visa slip. And also the identity supplement. Now, obviously, as some rules come through, others will be removed, so you'll not have to check all of these at once. There are a few bonus documents, such as people who come to Ashtotka to work have to bring a valid work pass. Those seeking asylum have to bring their grant of asylum, which starts only on day 21. On day 29, after things are starting to look bad for Stotskin, Georgie shows up and tells the inspector about an opportunity to escape to Obristan. He hands out contact information of a person who can forge passports for the inspector and his family. Assuming the inspector has enough money and Aubrey passports, Georgie helps the inspector to get started by giving him his own passport, which the inspector cannot refuse. Georgie walks away saying that he can easily get another. This is the only point in the game when the inspector will receive a citation regardless of the encounter's outcome. This is the ending I was going for in this playthrough. The inspector escapes to Obristan with his living family members. The inspector needs to quote unquote illegally confiscate enough passports from Obristan citizens. This ending does not require the entire family to be alive and can thus be achieved if only one family member is alive and escapes with the inspector. This ending shows the inspector grabbing all or a few members of his family and then going on a train and getting ready to leave for Obristan. If you leave without the other family members, they'll be forced to return to Nursk, which is the inspector's home country. Their safety will unfortunately be unknown. During this playthrough, I chose to have the inspector and the son go to Obristan. They will take the fake passports and entry tickets and make their way to the border where they'll be accepted and let in. The other endings consist of helping the EZEC order or doing your job correctly for the government. To get the government ending, the inspector must not have completed any EZEC tasks given during the game. On day 31, he must neutralize or kill both EZEC attackers and must not escape to Obristan afterwards. In the next morning, his information audit shows only minor infractions and he is permitted to return to work. A deal with Kolechia is reached and the checkpoint will reopen on January 1st. This is the only ending that will unlock the code for Endless Mode 62131. To get the EZEC order ending, the inspector must have completed at least 4 out of the 5 EZEC tasks given throughout the game. If this is the case, an EZEC messenger will arrive on day 31 and tell the inspector to hold his fire. EZEC attackers blow up the border wall and EZEC gains power. If he sleeps at the end of day 31, they make the inspector their agent and move his family to a better apartment. If you haven't completed the tasks, the EZEC agent will not appear as the second entrant on day 31, meaning that getting the ending is impossible.